And welcome once again to the Thrifty Collector. Today, going over the Wrestling All-Stars calendar. Now, I didn't know about this calendar until about 5 years ago, and I actually saw where somebody had cut out the months, and I was purchasing that, and I thought it was kind of weird, and then I actually saw that I actually found the whole calendar. Now, back when I purchased this, I think it was about $20 for the calendar. I got it at a real good price, and there's some pretty good little interesting tidbits to go on here and a couple of surprises. This calendar, of course, had the official Mid-South Wrestling Association calendar. So this only dealt with the guys in the Mid-South-ish area, because there are some guys that weren't primarily Mid-South. But when you see the names, you're going to kind of see it pretty well. Of course, we got on here, we have the Junkyard Dog, JYD, Thump. So he was huge in that area. Bill Watts really pushed him way back when. So he was kind of the poster boy, get the pun, of this calendar. So let's go over this and see what we have in here, what kind of surprises. Now, this is January 1984. You had Magnum TA and Wrestling All-Stars. I love how they use the Wrestling All-Star card design. I've thought about sending this off to get signed by Magnum and Jim Duggan, but you'll see I've got a couple of these actually are signed. But this is January 1984. This might have been, if you think about it, not quite really the Hacksaw, because he was in the third series of the Wrestling All-Stars, but some of the guys that might have actually been in if they had done a fourth set of those particular cards in 1983. So Magnum TA, if you don't know the story about Magnum TA, it's pretty amazing. He was the up-and-coming. He was going to be the next Ric Flair. And then on a rainy night, he wrapped his Porsche around a tree and was nearly paralyzed. So, and when he did come back, they brought him back, but more of a commentator kind of role, and he walked with a cane. I don't know if he still does. The funny thing about the Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he doesn't have a 2x4. He has a metal chair. So I don't know if he just didn't have a 2x4 for the photo shoot or what to that extent. Now let's go to February. February, you got Butch Reed, Hacksaw Butch Reed, and the Junkyard Dog. Now, of course, Dog also had a Wrestling All-Star card, but not Butch Reed. So there was a good chance, like I said, that Butch might have actually been on there. Now, you got Mr. Wrestling 1 and Mr. Wrestling 2. The Mr. Wrestling 2, Johnny Walker, I actually got this signed at the Dothan Wrestling Reunion for Continental Championship Wrestling. He lived on Hawaii, and I think he knew he was up there in age. His health probably wasn't the best, and this was like his last time coming back to the continental U.S. I was lucky enough. I got this like right before that showing, so it's great to have that nice little piece of history. He actually still wore his mask, and it was literally 100 degrees. It was some kind of like peanut building, if you can imagine this, huge, but with no air conditioning and just a big vent. So there's Mr. Wrestling 2 autograph. Next one, Mil Mascaras and Chavo Guerrero. Mil was in one of the Wrestling All-Star sets, not Chavo. So kind of cool. Everybody knows Chavo Guerrero Jr. was in WCW in the late 90s with him and Eddie. So there was great storylines between them. They were happy cousins one week, or I think one of them was the nephew, but either or. But Mil Mascaras and Chavo Guerrero. Next one, Cowboy Bill Watts, who pretty much was running that territory at the time. He did also have a card. I like the Dr. Death Williams. He's got his Oklahoma jersey on. Johnny Rich. Met Johnny Rich. That was at the Dothan reunion also. Tommy was actually supposed to sign this, but Tommy Tommy gets distracted really easily. This was the one, Lawler, who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, was next to Tommy, and Tommy was a hoot. And Tommy, obviously, he'd gotten Subway before he got there, and everybody was paying him for autographs, and Tommy was just like, whatever, just give me whatever. But he was putting the money underneath his Subway sandwich napkins. So, and he kept hitting Jerry, like elbowing him, kind of slapping him. Jerry, driving Lawler nuts. They're paying me cash, Jerry. So it really made Tommy Wildfire Rich's day. I would like to see what belt that's from exactly. It's hard to tell. I'm sure if I kind of Googled that image. Johnny Rich. There was also Davy Rich. So it was Davy Rich, Tommy Rich, and Johnny Rich. They were kayfabe cousins. Next is Dusty Rhodes with the NWA belt. And you got Captain Redneck, Dick Murdoch. Great stories about Dick Murdoch. Next, you got King Kong Bundy and Kimala, the Ugandan warrior. So you can see how McMahon kind of changed it a little bit. Kamala's real name was James Harris. He was a great signer. I think he charged only $5, $10, and the guy really needed the money. Sad way he kind of ended. He lost both legs to diabetes. I always hoped that they would have brought him in to that reunion show because he was in the next state over. He was in Mississippi, so it would have been real cool to meet him. I always loved Kamala. King Kong Bundy, I tried to get everything signed in blue ink with Bundy, and the promoter told me that Bundy said black is Bundy. And what's kind of nice is he did the full signature, the King Kong Bundy. There was a while there where he was just doing KKB, but unfortunately I'll never get the Kamala signed. Next, Tim Horner, White Lightning, and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. If you've never seen Ted DiBiase without a beard, it is kind of weird seeing him without one. And then Tim Horner, he was kind of a mid-Carter kind of guy. Cornette tells some really hilarious stories about Tim Horner. But yeah, that's Tim Horner and Ted DiBiase. The next one's Skandar Akbar. That's with Killer Khan. When I was talking to, and I want to say it was Tom Pritchard kept telling me that's Jerry Blackwell over Skandar's left shoulder. And Jerry Blackwell was like 5'6" and about 8 foot around. I'm pretty convinced that that is One Man Gang, because One Man Gang was rather tall, and so was Killer Khan. The next one, Mr. Olympia, that's Jerry Stubbs. Very nice guy, very personable. I actually gave him a Wrestling All-Stars card, and he kind of looked at it like he really didn't know what it was. So, but I've gotten quite a few of them signed from them. He actually was in an event in this little small town that I live at an armory. So, got to see him, got to talk to him. Actually, I've met him probably, I want to say 3-4 times at least. Next one, I love this one. The Freebird, Buddy Rogers, and the other Freebirds, Terry Gordy and Michael P.S. Hayes. Unfortunately, Michael is the only one still with us. But they were in the WWE Hall of Fame, for whatever that means. WWE Hall of Fame is a little bit more credible than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But kind of cool to see Buddy Roberts get his own card. So it's kind of weird they didn't put them together, but hey, that's how they did it back then. You got the big cat, Ernie Ladd, who was a very successful football player, probably should be in the Hall of Fame, the football NFL Hall of Fame, and also Andre the Giant. So I'm sure Andre just happened to be touring in that territory at the time, and they said, let's take a picture of you. And Ernie Ladd was also in that Mid-South. Now, Boyd Pierce, he was, from what I've read, he was the promoter / interviewer. Don't know how true that is. Maybe he was just a booker. But if you look at the guy right there, I'm going to give you a second to try and see who you think that is. And I did have to ask a couple of the wrestlers, say, who is that guy? And when they told me, I was quite surprised. It's actually Paul Ellering from the Ward Warriors in the Legion of Doom. And then Grizzly Smith. You've seen the documentary probably about Grizzly Smith. Not really a nice man, Jake the Snake's father, but sadly he's in this. And then once again, we're back to the Junkyard Dog. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. You can find these on eBay. I did see some of the ones where people just cut the individual months out. But if you can pick one of these up full, it's kind of cool, kind of neat. Just something that I thought about. It seems like people really like this oddball wrestling stuff that I have, which if you get back in the 80s and a lot in the 90s and 70s, there's all this kind of oddball wrestling stuff that you can hunt down, track. Of course, it's a lot funner finding it in the wild, but I've never found a Wrestling All-Star card in the wild, so I've kind of given up on that, maybe one day. But I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions about this calendar or any of the other things that I have, please do. And everybody, stay thrifty.